the land of Elysium. An ever-changing landscape filled with a range of dinosaurs living their own unique lives. Today, we're not following this Wehenvenator pack. We are following a lone Saichania. Separated from her herd, Cherimoya is restless as the sun begins to set. Night, after all, is an herbivore's weakness. Danger tends to lurk within the dark. The overhead storm masked this particular night's danger. As Cherimoya wandered to the edges of the outlands, only once the rising plumes of smoke became highlighted by the flashing lightning make her aware of what lurked nearby: a fire. The young Saichania wasted no time in fleeing. The ground, moistened by the rain, made her footing weak. Slipping in the gritty soil, she rushed to the nearby river. She just had to cross over to safety. Success. Ideally, the storm's rain would put out the fire before it reached Cherimoya, but it seems that this paranoid Saichania did not want to take that risk. Resting briefly at a nearby pond for water, she regains her composure, searches for some sort of scent, and then moves on. The night, unlike her, was patient and had just begun. Though the rain had gone and the fire assumedly had been put out, our subject still has a long, long night ahead of her. The salt marsh. Most Saichania avoid this region. Edible food isn't as plentiful, fresh water is scarce, and water flooded the open plains. But Cherimoya wasn't like most Saichania. She's aquatic. Adapted for both land and water, she navigates this marsh with ease, foraging and thriving where her terrestrial siblings cannot. Here is where she seems to finally be able to rest. A brackish pond provides water and salty edibles to sustain her until day. But she doesn't last that long. The wind picks up, the nighttime fauna go quiet. Cherimoya's eyes open to a whirlwind in the distance. A tornado has formed, and she had to move quickly. Wind bellows as the tornado seems to follow Cherimoya's trail. It made her movements sloppy, frantic. She was sleep-deprived and making mistakes, but she couldn't let it stop her from getting to shelter. A cave filled with crystals came into view as she sprinted across the salty marsh, and as the sound of the crystals vibrating in harmony became louder and louder, the Saichania realized she had made it to safety. Turning around, it seemed as though the tornado had left her. Wind was still whipping around the landscape, but as the sun began to rise, it became clear that the tornado was no longer a threat. So Cherimoya continued, weary and tired. It was brighter in the morning when Cherimoya entered the salt marsh's outskirts. Despite the wind, it was calm, deceptively so. The young Saichania crested a sandy hill, only to be met with the terrifying vision of another tornado, just as fast and large as the previous one, and just as targeted onto her. She had been traveling for so long, though, and the scent of fresh water nearby tempted her nose. She had to risk getting closer just for a moment, just for a sip. Parchedness momentarily satiated, Cherimoya began to flee the encroaching tornado. But she was slow, and there was no nearby shelter. If she didn't figure out a way out of this situation, this could very well be the end of her journey. As she briefly paced the water's edge, it seemed as though she had made a decision, and she dove down into its depths. It seems as though to get out of danger, Cherimoya would rely on her aquatic nature. She briefly resurfaces to get a good breath of air before descending and waiting for the tornado to pass. Unlike terrestrials, aquatic Saichanias can hold their breath for a much longer period. Walking on the bottom of the ocean's floor helped to regulate her breathing. With luck, she would survive this storm. Her eyes were locked onto the rough winds above her, dancing at the surface of the water, and oh, so slowly did it begin to dissipate. Against all odds, the young Saichania had endured. The world around her felt still. Free from predators, free from fear, she was safe. As storm clouds broke, soft light filtered through the clearing skies, and verdant leaves casting a golden hue over the landscape. Cherimoya, the young Saichania, continued her solitary journey in search of a herd, but fatigue had begun to weigh heavily on her. Not far off, a secluded meadow came into view. At its heart, a moss-lined pond lay undisturbed, its surface reflecting the calm of the moment. Drawn by instinct and the promise of peace, Cherimoya approached. She lowered her head to drink heartily, the silence broken only by the gentle chorus of birdsong from the canopy above. In that moment, she had found a rare sanctuary, perhaps only for a few hours, or maybe until nightfall, but for now, it was enough.